Have you ever wondered how to sell on a webinar just like Russell Brunson? I mean, it's really no secret. In fact, he lays it out in all of his books. And how to sell on a webinar just like Russell Brunson is exactly what I'm covering in today's video. Hey guys, I'm so glad that you stopped by the channel. I'm Tom Jacobs. If you're new here, you might want to just go ahead and hit that little subscribe button right there. And also check out the playlist that I put together for new people right here for this channel. I've put together some of the best videos there, and you really want to watch those so that you can get better at your presentation, your performance, for more profits, because that's what this channel is all about. So let's dive into today's topic: how to sell on a webinar just like Russell Brunson. And like I said on the intro there, it's really no secret what he does, and it's not something that he came up and is really original about. I mean, his implementation of it is really quite unique and very, very effective. But the whole concept of what we're going through today is nothing new, and it's something that I've had in my programs, especially the Sales Impact Academy and my Dramatic Impact Story Academy, that I teach my own clients on so that they can get better at their presentation, their performance, and their profits, which is what, of course, I teach on this channel as well. It's also what I've trained my sales agents to do on the phone when they're making phone calls to confirm webinars, to book people onto consultations, and even to sell programs for our clients. Of course, I put my own spin on these concepts as well to really cater it towards the solopreneur, the solo practitioner, because you are doing so much in your business that you need those shortcuts. And so that's what I'm going to do to help you grow your business. It's really how these concepts have been implemented that are the real secret, if you will. And that's really how Russell Brunson was able to grow ClickFunnels into $250, $300 million a year business. I'm going to go over 3 distinct concepts that you need to implement in your next webinar so that you can sell at a very high level. These concepts are also what Russell Brunson teaches in all of his secrets books as well. So if you want to grab a copy of one of those books, I really highly recommend reading that as well to really enhance what I go through on this video. Concept number 1, he is very transparent about what the goal of the webinar is to make an offer at the end of it, to give some information and then make an offer. And he states that very clearly at the beginning of the webinar. And it's something that a lot of people kind of skip over, because there's nothing more infuriating from an audience point of view, whether that's on a webinar or live on stage, than to be blindsided at the end of the whole webinar or the seminar to be then pitched something that we weren't even prepared for. I remember going to a Jordan Belfort seminar in London. Jordan Belfort, by the way, is the Wolf of Wall Street. And he was putting on one of his sales seminars, and it was basically a 3-hour sales pitch, right? And I knew that going in, and I go to these events and watch webinars to look and see how other people are using these techniques as well. And so the first thing is that Jordan didn't even prompt the audience that he was going to make an offer at the end. And when he did transition into the offer piece of the seminar, it was super awkward, and people started leaving in droves. And they left, so many people were leaving that at one point he stopped the whole sales page and goes, well, where's everybody going? This is the best part. You're gonna definitely need this to improve your life and improve your business. And it was super, super awkward to watch that. And I kind of felt sorry for him as well. Now, when I do my webinars and my seminars as well, I lay out at the beginning that, if you want to go deeper with this content, then at the end of the webinar, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and make an offer, or I'm going to give you the opportunity to go ahead and dive deeper into the content. And that way the audience is prepared. They're like, yeah, I mean, if it's good stuff, sure, why not? I'd love to hear what the offer is. And then when you go into the whole sales page, it's not this awkward kind of transition from teaching into now selling. Now, I have a quick question for you. On your webinars, if you're doing webinars right now, are you prompting your audience to know that there's going to be an offer at the end of the webinar? And that offer, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean that you're selling a full program. The offer could be to a strategy call or a discovery call or some type of another step in the whole process. So are you doing that? Make a comment below. I'm really interested to find out from you what you're doing to help your audience understand what the webinar intent is. Concept number 2 on how to sell on a webinar like Russell Brunson is to make sure that you are using stories to sell to your audience. Now, you can go through all these facts and figures and talk about concepts and all this, and even sciencey stuff and wellness, but nothing bores an audience more than facts and figures. What really gets an audience going, though, is the telling of stories. And these stories don't have to necessarily be your own personal transformation story. It could be a transformation story of one of your clients, from where they were to where they are now. And every story has a certain structure to it. Now, most of these stories use what's called the hero's journey, which is a framework on how to put a story together. And basically, it has several different parts to it. The first is what the problem is, what led up to the problem, what were the challenges along the way, and then the redemption, or what happened and how life was afterwards. So like the realization of how to overcome that problem, and then how life was after it. And when you follow this certain structure of the story, then people are very used to it, and now it's very easy to tell a story and get people really engaged in that story as well. There's nothing worse than having a story told to people that's really quite boring and doesn't follow that whole series. One of the big things that Russell does really well in his storytelling is that he always brings in the villain, and that's part of the whole conflict, that there's a villain that's impeding you from getting to what your goal is. And so he's really good at really throwing stones at what the big problem is, whether that's a company, if it's society, or whatever it happens to be. But that villain is there trying to keep you from getting to your goal. And that's where that conflict comes in. And that creates really good tension in the story. And then once the hero kind of overcomes that conflict and the tension, then everybody's like really rooting for that hero. And that's what's getting people behind you, because in that story, you're the hero. When you're the hero of that story and there's a villain, now everybody's kind of against that villain and they're really rooting for you. So when you get to the end of the story and you have the redemption, and at the end of your webinar, then you're asking for the sale, people are they're like rooting for you, because you went through this whole transformation and you were able to articulate that transformation using the power of story. And using stories on a webinar is critical on how to sell on a webinar. This is a critical piece that many people doing webinars aren't taking advantage of, and quite frankly, it shows in the results. So if you're interested in learning how to kind of put that story structure together, I've put together a storybook, and the link is down below. You can grab a copy of that and just follow the instructions. It's laid out pretty well in terms of step-by-step what you need to do. And then at the end of going through that whole workbook, you'll have your story written in a way that engages your audience. Okay, number 3, and this is probably the most controversial of the topics of when doing a webinar, and really how to sell on a webinar, just like Russell Brunson does. And this is the actual sales pitch. So the piece where you are actually selling to your audience. And that's where you get your payday. Always, 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 before you go into the whole sales pitch, ask for permission to now take people into a different direction. You've stopped the teaching piece of your webinar, and now you want to transition into the selling piece. And again, you've already asked for permission at the beginning, or at least laid out the agenda in terms of there will be an offer at the end. Now you can ask permission from people. Hey, is it okay if I tell you a little bit about how to go a little bit deeper with the information that we went through today? Because certainly in an hour, it's not really easy to implement everything that we've gone through. And so if it's okay with you, I'd love to share with you how you can get more information and go a little bit deeper with this. And they're right there, you're asking for permission. And you can even go as far as saying, yeah, just put a 1 in the chat box, and and people will then start putting ones in there, and there you go. You got your answer in terms of getting permission from the audience to go ahead and start selling to them. The key of selling on a webinar is to make it really, really simple. You don't want to lay out too much for people to have to kind of figure things out on their own. You would just want to lay it out very simple. This is what I want you to do next. You're selling the next step. If the next step is your program that you're selling, well, great. Then you go into what the offer is, what the added value is of doing it now, how you're going to take them out of their pain to help them solve their problem. And then you're going to add another bonus and bonus and bonus and bonus. You're going to add all this value. And this is, again, something that Russell does really, really well in terms of adding all of this value. So at the end of the webinar, you're going, oh my gosh, all of this value and it's only $1,000? Heck yeah, sign me up. The other thing that I like to do before going into the sales piece and after asking for permission to go into the offer, then I like to exclude people that aren't interested. And I usually say something like this, especially at live events. It's really important to do this because people are around each other. And if you have one really negative Nelly in the audience, then it can really pull everybody down. And especially if they're asking lots of questions that aren't relevant to making the sale, then their energy can really bring down the rest of the group, but also can bring your energy down as well. I actually ask people to leave if they're not interested in hearing the offer. And I usually say something like, well, at this point, if you think you've gotten everything and you don't want to go any further, that's cool. I'm going to spend about 20 more minutes going over how to go a little bit deeper. So if you got things to do, you can go ahead and take off right now. And that way I'm not taking up any more of your time for something that you're not really interested in. And then allow them to pack their stuff up and leave, gracefully, rather than having them sit there and kind of suck the energy out of the rest of the room. Now, on a webinar, you can do the same thing and just say, at this point, I'm going to spend another 10, 15 minutes talking about how to go deeper with this information. And if you are in the camp where you kind of got everything that you needed and you don't need to go any further, great, you can jump off the call right now. And that way you aren't having people on the call that aren't really interested. And trust me, not many people are going to jump off the call. They all want to hear. If they haven't already left the webinar, they're going to definitely want to hear what you have to say. Well, there you go. 3 tips on how to sell at a high level on a webinar, just like Russell Brunson. Well, I hope this video was super helpful for you. If it was, just go ahead and give it a thumbs up, make some comments down below, share it out to the friends, and definitely hit that little subscribe button right there so that you get notified every time new content is delivered. And again, this channel is all about presentation, performance, and profits to help you with your business. Now, I've also put together a couple other videos that I think would be very helpful for you. They're right here and here. So check those out. And until next time, you have a great day.